An asbestos sampling technician. Got hired on for a 2-month job at the laboratory and kind of worked my way up into the position I have now. That was about 18 years ago.
I was working for a laboratory that wanted to become accredited by AIHA and started doing some monitoring and studying for the CIH exam. I'm a chemist by occupation, by trade, so I essentially just started in the lab, started to learn more about industrial hygiene as things went along. It was kind of interesting, and the rest is history.
I got started in industrial hygiene. When I was younger, I looked through our family's world book, and there was a section on careers, and I saw that there was some information on industrial hygienists, and I always thought that was cool. And so then when I went to graduate school, I was able to take a couple classes in industrial hygiene, and that's where I became more interested in industrial hygiene. And I thought it was really an interesting field with interesting subject material. And now I've been in industrial hygiene for 20 years, and I'm really glad I made that choice, because it is really an interesting career to be in, and with a lot of great subject material also.
I'm an entomologist. My background is in entomology, and there was a job opening on biological safety at Iowa State, and I was interested because it had to do with biological organisms, plus it allowed me to stay at the university as well.
Well, I got into industrial hygiene quite by accident. I was doing basically junior engineering kind of work at a particular company. I was a new person on the block. OSHA had just enacted their standard, and they needed somebody to do safety and industrial hygiene stuff. And I found that industrial hygiene was a lot more interested than doing field engineering. That's the reason why I got into it. And one of the things about industrial hygiene is that it's not very boring. There's always new challenges and new things that you're always looking at.
I got started in the field of IH after I got laid off of my medical technology position and was hired at the lab, and was mentored by my supervisor at the time, Dr. George Brewer, who was a certified industrial hygienist.
For EMC, a little over 2.5. I had an internship at the VA hospital in Iowa City for about a year, and I worked for General Motors as an industrial hygienist, research assistant for approximately a year, so I guess that makes 4.5.
A long time. I was certified back in the 80s actually, and have been in either working as an IH or I managed an environmental testing lab for a number of years as well. So ever since mid-80s.
It really varies. One day I could be doing noise monitoring on someone cutting a horse's head in half, and the next day I could be doing an ergonomic evaluation in a really nice office setting. So no 2 days are really alike, and that's really what I enjoy about industrial hygiene, is that there's so many different subject areas and that you can deal with a lot of different aspects of health and safety.
It could be a random question, or it could be, you know, I get to the office, I start checking my institutional biosafety committee protocols, checking out how many recombinant DNA protocols I have to analyze that day. You know, biosafety level 3 stuff.
Come into work in the morning and we have a production meeting, just kind of get a feel for what's going to be going on, what's due during the day. There's rush projects coming in, stuff like that. And then after that, it's a different day every day. I mean, there's a lot of phone calls, a lot of clients calling in with projects. We have an equipment rental business, so we calibrate a lot of pumps and send them out to clients, review MSDS sheets and let them know what types of things they can sample for, and kind of help them with some sampling strategies.
I would have to say kind of wearing multiple hats. We get involved with policyholders that do anything from their teachers at a school to, you know, having indoor air quality and mold problems to hexavalent chromium exposure to welders on stainless steel. So we get involved in quite a bit of everything.
Normal day. Every day is different, as I said, and so for example, some of the issues that I've addressed this week is a biosafety cabinet that was not functioning correctly, formaldehyde monitoring for inside the laboratory spaces, evaluating the building automation systems for proper air pressures in our biosafety level 3 laboratories, and of course getting analytical results for industrial hygiene samples to our clients.
Being able to actually help people, hopefully prevent them from having to go to the doctor with all these problems that can arise from various exposures.
What interests me the most is that every day is different. You never know what you're going to have the next day, depending upon the workplace that is being evaluated.
I kind of like the aspect of just trying to make the workplace safe for workers. Before I came to this position, I worked at a manufacturing plant, and one of the reasons I left there is because I was working with some chemicals that I didn't fully understand what they were, their properties and stuff, and when I started reading about them, I was like, I don't think I want to stay here, because they didn't have a very good program there of safety and industrial hygiene, and so as soon as I found this, I thought, this is something I could get into, so.
You know, the important thing is that they don't only, our industrial hygienists don't only look at one factor, they look at, multiple. They are not looking, for example, only at like light particles or whatever. They put it all into context in a full picture. So I think that's why it's important. They just don't look for one item. They're trying to put the whole picture together.
Just protecting workers and communicating with people so they know the hazards around there. Because most of at least the stuff that we deal with and a lot of the clients that we deal with, they do deal with chemicals that can be hazardous, but they can also be used safely if you know what you're doing and be careful with them.
The importance of IH is protecting the health of our workers and the public health risk assessment for our workers, and I think it's just vitally important to maintain the health of the job workers out in the field.
I think in this day and age of companies cutting back on things, it's actually more and more important, because we're dealing with more and more different types of chemicals that don't necessarily have a lot of toxicology data on them, and we're dealing with it with less people than we had before. So I think it's, those of us that are left, it's very important.
I think the most pressing issue is the fact that there's very little push by OSHA on any health-related standard. They're looking more in relationship to the safety aspects of things, and not so much the industrial hygiene. They don't have enough industrial hygienists to adequately look at workplaces, and they hardly ever get to certain locations. I think that's a problem.
At least in the issues that we're dealing with, the hexavalent chromium, that's a big one. It's a pretty new standard that OSHA has out there, and a lot of people are really concerned about it. A lot of the places that we're dealing with in Iowa do a lot of welding on stainless steel, and that's a pretty big deal for them, so being in compliance with that.
I would say nanomaterials. We have a lot of researchers on campus who are dealing with nanomaterials, and it would be great to know how to deal with that more effectively from an exposure level standpoint, and controls, although I guess using it in a fume hood is about the best control measure we have on campus right now.
Probably the fact we're going to have a lack of industrial hygiene professionals in the next, say, 10 years. There's not very many people in you and I's age group that are coming into this field, and that's really probably the biggest focus, is getting more people involved.